Maverick Vinales spent the whole summer break hunting for the reason his left arm would not turn outward properly. He got his answer last week, and KTM got something better. A small tear in the infraspinatus, missed by every scan until the final week of the break, and Vinales is out of Silverstone. That is the part everyone reported. Here is the part nobody laid next to it. Within hours of that medical update reaching the public, Sky Italia reported that Luca Marini had agreed a 2-year deal with Tech3 KTM. Same garage, same afternoon, one rider explaining his shoulder, another being measured for his seat. So who is KTM actually waiting on? And what happens when the answer is nobody? A day before that medical update went public, Vinales did something riders in his position rarely do out loud. He shut the door on an early exit. He posted it himself on his own Instagram story. He would not go and race superbikes, and he would finish the year exactly as his contract says. Heard on its own, that sounds like a man refusing to be pushed. Heard against what was already moving behind him, it sounds like something else entirely, because the contract he is defending covers 2026. The seat that decides whether he is still a MotoGP rider at all is 2027, and that one was already being sold. So do the Tech3 arithmetic out loud, because nobody inside KTM is going to do it for you. It takes 20 seconds and it ends the debate. Tech3 fields 2 bikes. Enea Bastianini is already gone for 2027, off to Trackhouse Aprilia. That frees one. Senna Agios, the Moto2 rider KTM has been grooming, is tipped for it. Marini is now reported into the other on a 2-year agreement. 2 seats, 2 names, neither of them is Vinales. And there is no relief anywhere else in the building. KTM confirmed its factory pairing in early July. Alex Marquez and Fabio Di Giannantonio, both committed for at least 2 seasons, both signed to develop the RC16 for the 850 cubic centimetres rules. Pedro Acosta is going to Ducati. Brad Binder, after all those years and all those wins, has no KTM seat for 2027 either. Count the KTM bikes for 2027. 4 machines. Alex Marquez, Di Giannantonio, Marini, Agios. Vinales is not on that list, and neither is Binder. And Binder has never missed a race with a shoulder. If an injury is the reason Vinales is being left out, that same story has to explain how a completely fit rider with multiple wins for the brand ended up in the identical queue. It cannot. Now look at Marini. On the same day the Tech3 report broke, Honda published his Silverstone preview, and the line he chose was this: "We need to keep taking good points to protect our position in the top 10 in the standings and stay as the fastest Honda." Fastest Honda. It sounds like ambition. It functions like a resume. Marini is the only rider in the entire Honda structure without a confirmed grid position for 2027, and his deal expires at the end of this season. He is not protecting a ranking. He is finishing a job interview he has already passed. And, oh yeah, there is one more piece of this, and it wrecks the timeline everybody has been using. The Marini conversation did not begin when that tier turned up last week. It was running before the summer break started. In late June, Crash reported that Marini's management had already met Tech3, and that Marini himself had sat down with KTM sporting director Pit Beirer. Agios was in talks for the second bike at the same time. That reporting spelled out the consequence plainly. A Marini and Agios pairing would rule Binder out and leave him looking elsewhere. The board was being filled in June. The infraspinatus tier was found in the last days of July, in the closing week of the break. The seat was gone before the scan that supposedly cost it even existed. That same reporting carried a line that has aged badly. Vinales, it said, had damaged his own position that weekend with repeated outbursts blaming KTM for leaving him without a ride in 2027. And those outbursts did not go down well with Guenther Steiner of the group now running Tech3, which raises the question nobody at KTM once asked. What was he so angry about in June, if the only problem was a tier nobody had found yet? He answered that himself in July. Describing how the 2027 negotiation actually ended, Viñales said, KTM sent me a contract. They sent it to my email and I signed it. And 2 weeks later, they told me it wasn't valid. Sent, signed, voided. He said the terms were not good at all, but he wanted to race anyway. Then he went further. I don't think I'll continue, he said. That is not a man waiting on medical clearance. That is a man who already knew. Then look at who KTM sent to Silverstone in his place. Not a prospect. Not a Moto2 name getting a weekend on a factory bike. They called up Paul Espargaro, their own test rider, and Espargaro was honest about what that means. I'll need a bit of time to adapt back to the category, since I've mostly been testing the RC16 for the new project, and haven't been on the 1,000 cubic centimetre bike in a while. That is not a stand-in chosen to score points. If Tech3's 2027 lineup were genuinely open, a race weekend on a competitive bike is the cheapest audition in the sport. KTM had one going spare and skipped it. Now look at the injury properly. It did not start last week. Viñales wrecked that left shoulder, crashing at the Sachsenring in July of 2025. He kept trying to ride through it and kept pulling out Austria, Indonesia. Then a screw worked loose. He lost Austin in March and had it removed in April. That is more than a year of a rider carrying a visible, documented, endlessly discussed problem. And for most of it, KTM never made it a contract question. They treated it as one the moment it became convenient. People thought this was KTM waiting to see whether Viñales heals. It was never that. It was KTM waiting for a reason that photographs better than the real one. The Tech3 project changed hands. Steiner's group wants its own lineup, and the factory side already spent both of its seats on Alex Marquez and Di Giannantonio. In that arithmetic, Viñales was never a medical case. He was surplus. So is Binder. The shoulder is not the cause of this decision. It is the cover the decision was waiting for. So be honest about what happened here. Viñales did not lose his future to a torn infraspinatus. He lost it in June, when KTM's factory plans changed and the talks collapsed. Weeks before the scan, and before Marini ever met Tech3, the tier did not make the decision. It made the decision free. KTM's own account from Pit Byra in July is that Viñales turned down the Tech3 seat once he learned it was not the factory one. Viñales says the contract he signed was simply cancelled. Neither is the tidy public version. An injured man stepping aside on his own bad news and a replacement walking through the door he left open. Make no mistake about the cost. Viñales has already said he does not think he will continue. One of the fastest riders of his generation talking himself out of MotoGP over a shoulder that was never the real reason. He said he would finish the year exactly as that contract says. He will. That is now the whole of what he has left. Nobody was ever waiting on that shoulder. They were waiting for it to hand them a reason. So was KTM managing an injury here or just cashing one in? Let us know in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.